Welcome Scorpio to your in-depth monthly horoscope for October 2024 for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. Please do take advantage of your year 2025 personal horoscope forecast based on your unique birth data. If you order it now, you can get the rest of year 2024 free, plus your life roadmap report and 30% off. On the screen now, I'm showing your event chart right at the start of the month, which will prove influential. Now, as last month came to a close, the Sun coalesced with Mercury, the planet of communication, but also the planet of precision, in an exact alliance known as a cazimi. So as you make your way into this new month, the psychological energy that they're arousing, because for you they're in house 12, which can be where we want to withdraw, reflect, heal, perhaps consider issues to do with our past, or even just pause and rest. They're blending into the solar eclipse, which occurs across the 2nd and 3rd. And that's an energy that doesn't just provide a backdrop for this month, but for the next 6 months ahead. That solar eclipse has to collaborate with the lunar eclipse, which occurred across the 17th and 18th of September in the part of your scope very much to do with manifesting your joys. Anything to do with playfulness, fun, sociability, romance, if you have done your children's activities. But that 12th house energy, because it is more reflective, doesn't really blend in with that more outgoing lunar energy. So how do you make these come together this month? A further paradox comes in the sense that your two ruling planets are so stridently influential this month, not least Mars. Mars is your traditional ruler and starts and ends this month in a part of your situation which is very adventurous, but also can be very outspoken. Mars is in the sign of Cancer. It's not its best host. It's known as being in full here. Mars can be assertive, and it's also about our desires, but the sign of Cancer is much more to do with emotions. But you could find yourself being much more outspoken about how you feel about things this month. But how does that work with that energy which is shimmering in the 12th house, which could bring to the fore that part of you that can favour privacy and keeping things to yourself? Well, I feel it is going to create some turbulence, to be honest, but that doesn't mean to say there's not opportunities. Over the next half year, if there are issues from your distant past that still need resolution, could have been some upsets, separations, losses, or perhaps there's some anxieties that are still washing around inside of you, that solar eclipse gives you a wonderful opportunity to work with those in a very productive way. Also, as this month begins, Venus, the planet of relating, but also money, is in your sign. And although the Moon and Saturn are in opposition as we go into October, Venus by the end of the first week is aligning with Saturn in your 5th house, along with where that lunar eclipse occurred, in a very constructive way. So the relationships that are solid are going to bring you a lot of reassurance by the end of the first week. But what you may need to consider, particularly with the Moon in a very sociable part of your scope at the start of the month, but opposing Saturn, is if there are some fair weather players around you, you may become much more conscious of who you can really rely upon and trust over the following 4 weeks. We can have people in our lives who are those really trusted citizens. They may not always be the most glamorous person that's capturing our attention at any given time, but those people that are very solid are the people that you can start to appreciate strongly by the end of that first week. But this is a month when Jupiter, the planet of opportunity, does start to go through its annual retrograde. And for you, Jupiter's in the part of your scope to do with long-term financial opportunities, business, entrepreneurship. Does that mean you're going to be unlucky? No. Jupiter retrograde just helps us and will help you over the next 4 months through to the start of February next year to just become a little bit more conscious about some of the deeper transitions that are going on in your life. Jupiter can be about knowledge, it can be about faith, it's not just about luck around loot. But the 8th house can be where we're most devoted, and because of that 12th house energy making you think and reflect about the reliability and sincerity of some people in your situation, certainly through the start of this month, you could be questioning certain associations. But on the 12th, Pluto, your modern ruler, ends a retrograde which began in May, initially in your sector of home and emotion, and since the 2nd of September in the part of your scope to do with your everyday connections. Through to the 19th of November, you have a glorious opportunity to assert your point of view. And that really crystallizes in a very powerful way at the end of this month, as I'll shortly explain. But right at the heart of this month, Venus in your sign goes into an electric opposition with Uranus in the part of your scope to do with relationships. So that could give you a desire to connect to someone new or escape from a relationship which isn't really serving your greater good. Now, Jupiter forges a very lucky link with the Sun on the 14th of this month, along with the exact opposition between Venus and Uranus. So right at the heart of this month could prove pivotal for you, not least that Mercury returns to your sign on the 13th. Mercury and the Sun being in your 12th house may have seen you not quite as fluid or not quite so able to express yourself. Also, Mercury in the 12th house can see us a little bit more anxious and feel that people are not necessarily keeping us in the loop. Ironically though, Mercury does clash with your modern ruler as soon as it moves into your sign, and that could give you, along with the Sun's return on the 22nd after an 11-month hiatus, and also clashing with Pluto, could give you food for thought around certain family associations. However, Pluto going direct, I feel, through to the 19th of the month does give you a chance to really think clearly and strategize about the things that are important to you, your ideas. But on the 17th, we have a full moon. It features the other sign that's ruled by Mars along with yours, Aries. Aries is the sign of initiation, of beginnings. Having the moon here is quite a raw influence. It's the 6th house for you, but it goes face to face with the Sun in the 12th. Particularly at work, if you have been in an environment which has felt a little bit hostile, distant, perhaps not particularly supportive, your emotions around that can explode to the surface if you feel that anyone's trying to subtly manipulate or undermine you. Because a 6th, 12th house full moon can see people playing some games, office politics, but not necessarily openly expressing their opposition. But because Mars, your traditional ruler, intersects the position of the moon and also the Sun, and is a very strident influence in house 9 and in the sensitive host of Mars, could see you, if you feel that people have been plotting in any way, may seem like a strong word, you may want to push back in an incredibly strong way. And you're going to be able to do it, you know, because with Venus moving on the 17th into your sector of resources, you're going to have some good fortune in terms of finances, which will give you some uplift. But then once the Sun returns back to your sign on the 22nd, you're going to come into the moment, you're going to recover your poise, your physical vitality will improve. Some of the fear or anxiety or stress that you may have encountered from that full moon will start to dissipate. It is true the Sun, like Mercury, clashes with Pluto. Maybe it's a sibling that you could find isn't quite as supportive as you would like. Maybe it's a neighbour or someone you encounter daily who ordinarily you've been pretty close to. Remember, the big picture over the next 6 months is to basically rinse from your situation the people or situations which no longer serve your greater good. And if you're becoming slowly but surely aware of who is in your corner and who isn't, I feel that the tensions that can occur towards the end of this month is all part of a bigger process of you taking a firmer grip on your life direction. Now, in the last week, despite Venus being in a positive location for loot and also the more sensual side of loving, it does clash with the cold Saturn in the part of your scope to do with speculation. If someone talks about a get-rich idea, a side hustle, I would be a bit skeptical towards the end of this month, because Saturn in the 5th house is asking you to enjoy your life and to take your hobbies and skills seriously, but also to be very realistic about who you connect to. So equally, if you find someone that you really fancy towards the end of this month, I wouldn't spoil them with any grand gestures. Let the relationship develop very naturally. But as the month comes to an end, probably one of the most potent events of the whole year is that your two rulers go face to face in a mighty cosmic clash. Mars in the 9th house in Cancer, as I said, can give you a desire to escape. The 9th house is very much about freedom and independence, but travel. But the host, Cancer, is very sensitive and can be a bit reactive here with Mars. But having Pluto, for the last time, this last phase, back in your 3rd house of everyday communications means that you could have a massive discussion at the end of this month, which could go all the way to an outright disagreement. But the key is, with your two rulers both being a very willful combination, your sex appeal and desires are going to be amped up to a maximum level. If you did encounter someone who really switched on your mind, was very active, or someone who surprised you in some ways by the strength of their personality, you might find them a very evocative influence that's hard to resist. But equally, you could find yourself having an outright conflict with someone who has a different viewpoint to you. And of course, we got the run up to the American election. There are very polarized views on either side. If you're someone who's very invested in that whole process, you may find yourself having some strident conversations. That would be understandable, but also understand that with Mars in opposition with Pluto, it can be a dust up that can lead to a complete breakdown in a relationship. So it's important to understand how to use power and force appropriately. But certainly it's a month that begins with you being encouraged to look at the more psychological, emotional and spiritual side of your nature and situation. That's going to go on for the next 6 months. The more you understand those motivations, the more you can make your love and social life work for you in 2025 in a positive way. And believe me, there are going to be some enormous opportunities to play. However, later in the month you get a chance to become much more single-minded, but also if there are some relationships, professional, personal, friendships or romantic, that need to change, go through the transition knowing that actually what you're doing is reinforcing what's important for you as an individual. As much as we can want to have equilibrium in our relationships, if you're giving away your power too much and people aren't appreciating you, it's all about setting your boundaries. Have a great month, and do please check out that year 2025 personal horoscope forecast offer. You'll get the rest of this year free, but also 30% off with your life roadmap report, all based totally on your unique birth data, and great value too. Please see the link below for more.